Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Waving Hope proposals to overcome the impact of war on the so-called sustainable development of the Earth from this building. The COP16 on biodiversity aims to monitor global progress towards compliance with the Convention on Biological Diversity and the protocols and agreements annexed to its development. The Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety, the Nagoya Protocol on Access to Genetic Resources and Fair and Equitable Benefit Sharing, the Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, as agreed at COP15 2022, including the correct linking of other international treaties and funding and conventions for the fulfillment of human rights and nature. The specific diagnosis that support the imperative need to protect biological diversity, that is, diversity in species, between species, and the diversity of ecosystems, identify the impact on the biosphere and its components, the hydrosphere, water, the lithosphere, rock, and the atmosphere, air, as the main problem. By affecting the various spatial levels, ecosystems are altered, reducing the necessary conditions for the reproduction of the life of various species on the planet, which, from a perspective of interrelation, interconnection, and interdependence, inspires us in the profound need to safeguard the diversity of peoples who are violated by colonialist and hegemonic social values and behaviors, affecting their language, their knowledge systems, and their ancestral memories, and for which they protect up to 7 generations. The Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework identifies land and sea use change, direct exploitation of organisms, climate change, pollution, and invasion by invasive species as the 5 direct diverse drivers of biodiversity loss. However, it emphasizes the importance of social values and behaviors as indirect drivers that underlie the causes of this phenomenon. In this sense, it is proposed to reflect and promote actions to positively transform the values and social behaviors that generate damage to biodiversity, to human and non-human life, to the life of Mother Earth, since they represent the roots of the socio-environmental crisis identified by Pope Francis, both in the encyclical Laudato Si and Fratelli Tutti, and his in the apostolic exhortation Laudate Deum. The need to promote the construction of democratic, plural, diverse, and peaceful societies is insisted out. A healthy and biodiverse world is a consequence of the healthy interrelation, interdependence, and interconnection between diverse societies with capacities for dialogue, non-violent management of their conflicts, guarantors of life in harmony for present and future generations. In this event, Christi International wishes to pay special attention to the damage to biodiversity generated by the arms race, which implies greater extractions of minerals, hydrocarbons, and gases necessary in the world's industry. The militarization of territories and ecosystems essential for life, the geopolitical strategy of appropriation for conservation, and the issue of genetic resources in business activities. The slogan of COP16, Peace with Nature, as a proposed objective for humanity, is directly related to the emergence of the urgency of peace from social and environmental justice among the various human societies. Achieving peace through a holistic approach that necessarily includes the nonviolent approach will ensure the fulfillment of the vision of the Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework by 2050, a world living in harmony with nature. Today, we have a goal to promote peace building, disarmament, and the good use of natural genetic resources for life in harmony, as Christi has did for the past 18 years. The specific objectives for this reflection is reflect on the impact of the war industry on biodiversity and the non-violent actions of civil society for the promotion of peace and social and environmental justice. To know the risks of the conservation strategy due to militarization, affecting the human rights of peoples and communities that inhabit ecosystems essential to life, and to promote the good use of genetic assets from an ecological conversion approach, warning about the risk of their management by the business logic of development at any price. We welcome our special invited research, Amanda Romero, who will share with us some reflection about these specific objectives today in the COP16. Thank you, Amanda, for accepting our invitation. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Martika, and very pleased to share with you some insights about peace building and non-violence, together with the issue of the protection of nature and how peace with nature, militarism, and the use of weapons are related to business accountability. So I will speak about the impacts of the military industry and also the illegal and non-state armed actors on biodiversity and the promotion of peace with environmental justice, and what is the role of civil society organizations in terms of nonviolence as an alternative for these movements. So, as Marta has said, I am Amanda Romero Medina. I am an independent consultant and professor of a public university in Colombia called ESAP. So, to start with this, I would say that the impacts of war and armed conflicts on nature are very many, and these conflicts are present in the guise of two different situations. The first one is that armed conflicts are targeting important natural sites, affecting people and other beings in these ways. First, we have contamination of highly toxic waste, anti-personnel mines, and unexploded ordnance, aerial bombardments, destroying forests, including the Amazon, and other cases like trials and experiments of weapons, like in the case of the island of Vieques in Puerto Rico. In second place, we have the burning and explosion of oil wells and gas, we have to say, according to the Ukraine war, as a mean of exerting political pressure in these armed conflicts. And then in the third place, the militarization of business facilities and control of the population because of warfare context in which these natural resources are under dispute. So I will say with this, according to in second place, to the negative impacts of military and security companies involved in protecting companies' facilities and the presence of illegal non-state armed actors, I will call the things that Australian lawyer Stephen Freeland states this as examples, like the one in Vieques, the Ukraine war, and other, the use of toxic materials like Agent Orange in Vietnam, illustrate the phenomena referred to as resource wars, where the economic value of natural resources serve to fuel or trigger conflict. Exploitation of these resources represents a source of funding for military activities, like in the case of gold in our region, giving rise to an vicious circle. The misuse of natural resources, such as diamonds, or the scarcity of resources like water, may facilitate potential conflict, a situation which then becomes self-perpetuating and protracted. Environmental degradation and destruction of natural resources can therefore be both a cause and a consequence of armed conflict. In this way, we speak of environmental crimes. And when say that environmental crimes, we see that the economic interests help to fuel violent conflict over natural goods seen as resources aimed at trade, and particularly international trade. Conflict minerals, those who are extracted in conflictive zones or zones under war or violent conflict, has a different legislation that is not currently the norm in the global north and much less in the global south. Political instability and natural resources continue to threaten the livelihoods of millions of peoples around the world. We see the pressure against the Iran oil, gas and oil wells, or the situation in the Gulf of Arabic countries, or the situation in Venezuela as examples of this situation in which the possibility of attacking these natural resources or facilities help to deepen the political stability of these governments. But also the issue of mitigation and recovery of contaminated lands is not currently a priority for our governments, something that distances a lot from the fact of speaking about protecting biodiversity and helping communities to recover from climate dangers and particularly this kind of attacks against it. So nature is being considered as a victim by the international humanitarian law. Investigation of environmental crimes by national or regional instances is missing, unfortunately in this context of violent conflicts, and the International Penal Court is not acting on these issues at the moment. So this is an urgent call for the international legislation to combat these crimes, to react and to start operating in the region. In recent years, we have an added situation in which we are witnessing that the situation is targeting human rights and environmental defenders, and particularly those who are proposing a peaceful resistance to conflicts. In this way, the people are resisting to militarization of their lands and territories, but also they are resisting to illegal or non-state armed groups affecting them directly. Also, they are trying to fight legally by mobilizing the few resources to new concessions and permits that will affect also their livelihoods, and they are noticing that the expansion of extractive companies are also affecting and triggering new conflicts in the region, together with the problem of corruption by public authorities and the collusion between companies and armed groups, being them official armed groups, the official armed forces, or illegal um, international organized crimes or local armed groups acting against the population because what it's at stake is natural resources. So, for this reason, we would like to highlight that we should make business accountable in order to achieve peace building and a peaceful situation with nature. The United Nations Working Group on Business and Human Rights 2021 document on the role of companies in conflict zones recommends that governments should take enhanced protection to human rights defenders, to environmental defenders, particularly indigenous and Afro descendants or local campesino communities in our region and across the globe. However, we are aware that having a binding instrument to make companies accountable is still far from being approved at the United Nations scenarios, although civil society organizations are fighting for that. Therefore, efforts by NGOs and civil society organizations like Pax Christi International to call for international support on the role of the judiciary And to tackle the issue of armed actors in protected areas require collaborative dialogue between intergovernmental bodies, such as those implementing the Biodiversity Convention and other international environmental documents and instruments, acknowledging the negative impacts by extractive companies and their relationship with violent conflicts that we cannot just oversee or ignore because they are happening and causing a lot of casualties. And finally, I would say that civil society organizations are promoting for these reasons that disarmament and the fight for peaceful forms of conflict settlement before armed conflict surge is something that organizations like the movement, the peace movement of Pax Christi International is trying to do across the globe, but not only Pax Christi, but other peace organizations and faith-based organizations following the teaching of the gospel and following the examples of these brave and courageous communities that are resisting this conflict. So with this, I would like to finish and thank you very much for the opportunity to addressing you today. And then I'm ready to respond to your questions or comments.
Thank you very much, Amanda. It has been really interesting your reflection about how the environmental crimes are connected with a system that is unjust, that prosecutes human rights and environmental defenders, and how the UN Working Group on Business and Human Rights are trying to tackle with this, promoting the business accountability and promoting measures to avoid those damages. And we, as Paxist International, continue working in promoting civil society and also social movements actions to promote disarmament, active nonviolence, and resistance to defend their lands and to defend their territories, their culture, and to promote the care of biodiversity in their territories. So I'm thanking you. There's no more time for today this event, but for sure, we will continue promoting this dialogue with Amanda and amongst our peaceful peace building network. So thank you very much. Have a nice day, night for all of us. Thank you, Amanda, for your generosity with us today. Bye.